watching TVC Breakfast. One of the best gifts a mother can give to her child is a nourishing liquid gold breast milk.
Well, the first 7 days in the month of August every year is celebrated annually as the World Breastfeeding Week. The day or the days aim to encourage breastfeeding, highlight its importance and improve the health of babies around the world.
Now, the theme this year, Empower Parents, Enable Breastfeeding, seeks to call attention to giving support to parents so that they can reach their breastfeeding goals. The World Health Organization recommends exclusive breastfeeding starting within 1 hour after birth until the baby is 6 months old.
Nutritious complementary foods should then be added while breastfeeding continues for up to 2 years or beyond.
Exclusive breastfeeding is the practice of breastfeeding a baby from 1 hour of life, ideally, up to 6 months of life with purely breast milk.
I like the idea of baby-friendly initiative, and we continue to encourage our women out there that it can be done. Some of us have done it. Even if you have to go to work, you can express your milk.
In Nigeria, only 3 out of 10 babies are exclusively breastfed at 6 months. Our goal is to increase exclusive breastfeeding rate from 25% to 50% by the year 2025. Breastfeeding is a foundation to good nutrition and the key to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. I call on families, employers, and policymakers to support mothers to achieve their breastfeeding goals. Let's come together to empower parents and create an enabling environment. Breastfeeding saves lives and money. It's time for action, and the time is now.
Well, joining me now is the Program Manager, Child Health Advocacy Initiative, Grace Oguniyi. Good morning.
Good
Welcome
morning.
to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Talking about empowering parents now to encourage breastfeeding, what do you think can be done?
Okay, talking about empowering parents to encourage breastfeeding, we realize that in the society we are in today, many mothers are ignorant of the idea that exclusive breastfeeding is actually the best for their children. And so there is need for us to educate mothers, and we need not only the government, we need the health workers, we need the society, we need so many people to encourage mothers that exclusive breastfeeding is the best for mothers and the best for children, because the benefits, I mean, far outweighs formula feeding and all that.
But then when you say ignorance, but then there's some, issues. Some mothers just cannot lactate early enough, and then some mothers have health challenges that may not, enable them to give their child the best form of feeding.
Okay, except for mothers with health challenges. But you realize that some mothers also seek the easy way out of exclusive breastfeeding. And there's usually no problem about lactating. Once, breastfeeding is initiated early within the first hour of birth, you realize that it will be easier for mothers to be able to breastfeed their children. But many times, some health workers or some people choose to go for the convenient way, and then they seek formula feeding, or they say, oh, they're tired, they're not interested. That way, the breast milk will not be let down, and then there will be no encouragement for the for the breast milk to come out for the children to feed. But aside health challenges,
it's still the best.
It's the best.
I've also heard, I love it, I couldn't achieve it in my own case, but then I've heard people say once the baby is 6 months old, having the baby transit to regular food could be tough because the baby is already used to breast milk.
Yes, many times mothers come up with such excuses, but yeah, sometimes you can also, like we've had many mothers complain about that. We think you can, introduce cup and spoon feeding at some point. Express your milk. By the time they start taking cup and spoon, just about the time they're about to transit into complementary feeding, then you realize these children start getting used to another method of feeding apart from the breast milk. Yes.
All right, Grace Oguniyi, thank you so much for your advice.
Thank you.
Exclusive breastfeeding is the practice of breastfeeding a baby from 1 hour of life, ideally, up to 6 months of life with purely breast milk.
I like the idea of baby-friendly initiative. I will continue to encourage our women out there that it can be done. Some of us have done it. Even if you have to go to work, you can express your milk.
In Nigeria, only 3 out of 10 babies are exclusively breastfed at 6 months. Our goal is to increase exclusive breastfeeding rate from 25% to 50% by the year 2025. Breastfeeding is a foundation to good nutrition and the key to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. I call on families, employers, and policymakers to support mothers to achieve their breastfeeding goals. Let's come together to empower parents and create an enabling environment. Breastfeeding saves lives and money. It's time for action, and the time
Really time for action. Now, one of the best gifts a mother can give to her child is the nourishing liquid gold breast milk.
And the first 7 days in the month of August every year is celebrated annually as the World Breastfeeding Week. The day aims to encourage breastfeeding, highlight its importance, and improve the health of babies around the world.
Now, the theme this year, Empower Parents, Enable Breastfeeding, seeks to call attention to giving support to parents so that they can reach their breastfeeding goals. Joining me now is the Program Manager at Child Health Advocacy Initiative, Grace Oguni. It's nice to have you join us right now.
Good morning, thank you.
Right. When it comes to the enlightenment about making or utilizing the best or making the best of the breastfeeding for children, how much of that are mothers imbibing these days?
There's a recent study that only 3 out of 10 babies are exclusively breastfed, and that is why the theme of this year's World Breastfeeding Week is aimed at empowering parents and encouraging breastfeeding.
Why do we have that kind of statistics? Because we feel that the knowledge, the awareness is increasing because over the years there has been emphasis on exclusive breastfeeding by WHO or UNICEF. Is it WHO, UNICEF? In fact, all of them put together.
They work together, yes. The knowledge is increasing, but knowledge and practice are 2 different things.
Okay.
We need more people to practice what they know. Some people know that exclusive breastfeeding works, but you know, they seek the convenient way and they say, oh, it's stressful, I can't keep breastfeeding my baby every time, I can't keep. But when you realize that the benefits of breastfeeding your baby exclusively far outweighs, you know, every other thing, then you would want to give your baby the best.
Now, when it comes to the issue of families helping the parents, in what ways can the parents actually be helped? Can you talk to us in that regard?
New parents of children need help in many ways, you know, especially now that we have an urbanized society compared to the rural society, where you find out that the support system is quite large and rich. You have many people within the family willing to support you. But right now, parents need every help they need, just like even we need workplaces that are very parenting friendly. We need to reenact or enact paternity leave, paid maternity leave, and so many areas.
Incentives,
yes,
maybe.
yes.
All right. Now, 1 full week of breastfeeding, as the case may be, what should be different about this 1 week of concentrating on the nutrition in that regard?
Yes, most of our focus now is on how to encourage paid paternity leave, maternity leave, and how workplaces can also be parent-friendly. So that is where the empowering parents comes from. Many fathers want to be there for their children, but their workplaces are not giving them such opportunity. And many mothers too, like for instance, Lagos State government has, you know, imbibed the giving parents, mothers, the first 6 months of exclusive breastfeeding. So we need this to go round. We need more state governments. We need the government also to enact this policy so that parents can give their children the best, which we also know as liquid gold, the breast exclusive breastfeeding.
All right. Thank you very much, Grace Oguni, for coming on the program.
Thank you so much.
Active breastfeeding is the practice of breastfeeding a baby from 1 hour of life, ideally, up to 6 months of life with purely breast milk.
I like the idea of baby-friendly initiative. I will continue to encourage our women out there that it can be done. Some of us have done it. Even if you have to go to work, you can express your milk.
In Nigeria, only 3 out of 10 babies are exclusively breastfed at 6 months. Our goal is to increase exclusive breastfeeding rate from 25% to 50% by the year 2025. Breastfeeding is a foundation to good nutrition and the key to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. I call on families, employers, and policymakers to support mothers to achieve their breastfeeding goals. Let's come together to empower parents and create an enabling environment. Breastfeeding saves lives and money. It's time for action, and the time is now.
Indeed, one of the best gifts a mother can give to her child is the nourishing liquid gold. That's breast milk.
Now, the first 7 days in the month of August every year is celebrated annually as the World Breastfeeding Week. Now, the day aims to encourage breastfeeding and highlighting its importance and improve the health of babies around the world.
The theme this year, Empower Parents, Enable Breastfeeding, seeks to call attention to giving support to parents so they can reach their breastfeeding goals. The program manager, Child Health Advocacy Initiative, Grace Oguni, is here with us on the show. Good morning.
Good morning.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And talking about breastfeeding now, there are also some benefits that it does give to the mother. Do you want to share?
Okay. For the mother, and child, you realize that breastfeeding, exclusive breastfeeding, encourages bonding between both mother and child. And over time, you realize when you're bringing up your children, you're training them, that bonding comes to play. You see where you're able to correct your child just with eye contact. You're able to talk to your child and he understands you because at his early stage of life, you were with that child. And you were singing, feeding him, you could feel your warmth, you could hear your voice, you could read your attitudes. So all those things come to play in the place of training. Apart from that, for the mother also, you realize that mothers who breastfeed exclusively, their uterus contracts easily and earlier. While you're breastfeeding, you realize that your womb goes back to its normal position, shape, easier, and then other benefits.
What about diseases? Has it been proven?
Yes.
For example, cancer now?
Cancer, yes. Exclusive breastfeeding helps. It helps to reduce the risk of cancer and so many other ailments, even bleeding after childbirth and all that. Exclusive breastfeeding does all that.
All right, it's good to understand. Now, when you talk about the issue of bonding, which draws our attention to the social chemistry that exists between mother and child, the father, who is also the man in that mix, also has a role to play. What can fathers do to ensure this breast feeding is enhanced?
Okay, like we said, this World Breastfeeding Week is about empowering parents, not just mothers, parents, and you realize many health facilities or many good hospitals, I would say that, they don't just encourage the mothers to put the child at, breast to breast, immediately you put to bed. They also encourage fathers to carry their children and bond. And one of the reasons we're encouraging or we are soliciting for paternity leave and all that is so that fathers also can have access to their children and bond.
And be present.
And be present. You don't just leave the child care to the mother. A father also contributes, you take care of the child. That way you realize that the training, the social chemistry, like you said, becomes easier. And when both parents are involved in training their children, we have a better nation.
Absolutely. And then the end date, so to speak, is 2 years. UN is even saying go as far as
3.
How realistic is that? This is Nigeria. We are naturally a very cultural society.
Yes.
But you don't even see women going as far as 1 year. If you do, in public, there's this, this look that you are given. How can you still be breastfeeding a child this old?
That's why we are creating this awareness. Formerly, they'll tell you once a child is beginning to walk, once a child is a year old, you stop breastfeeding. But now, everybody now knows, oh, there is WHO, there's UNICEF. There are bodies that are supporting that you can do the 2-year-old breastfeeding, and you can do even more. So parents are now, mothers that see that, oh, because I'm breastfeeding my child exclusively, I rarely go to the hospital, my child is healthy. I know it's different from formula feeding, where you can't really tell how well you go to the hospital, you are treating this infection and that infection. But mothers who really do this exclusive breastfeeding, they know they rarely visit the hospital, and they see the overall effect on the child, the brain, and every aspect.
All right, 1 full week of exclusive breastfeeding, that's enough groove for the entire family. Yeah, good groove there. It's really wonderful.
Grace, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for
very much
having
for
me.
coming.
Thank you.
Right.